Real Estate Regulation Act was a necessity. Real estate sector flourished, I think, from the beginning of this last decade till about ninth year of this decade. And during that time, land ceilings went through the roof. We had the most expensive real estate in the world in a place like Delhi. And so people started to make money. Sector developed. People invested because they had money. The economy was booming. Unfortunately, their expectations were not realized because the boom did not continue. It came down with a bang sometime in the late 2009s or 10s or something like that. And people lost their money because they didn't get delivery of the projects that they had invested in. People who had taken the money, the developers who had taken the money from the customers, did not use it for the projects themselves. They used it for purchasing more property, and so it all went for a big flop. So therefore, Real Estate Regulation Act was in the pipeline for the last 7-8 years, and now has been finally notified by this government. It has come into full force from the 1st of May 2017, and all projects ongoing where completion certificate has not been granted to the developer will come within the ambit of this act, and therefore they will have to be registered. And once they are registered, then the registering authority or the regulatory authority will ask them all those questions from which prospective buyer can make an informed choice as to what he's getting for the money that he's paying. So I think we are well on the road to sort of trying to pull up the real estate sector from the morass that it has fallen into. It is in the interest of both consumers as well as developers to come under this act, and of course it is obviously one of the sectors which will lead to the Mission 22 housing for all success. Will be done only if this real estate sector gets into its own again. So one is hoping that it will happen now. This is a transitory period, and so sooner or later I think things will even out, and all those grey areas we will iron it out from the government's side. Whatever is brought to our notice, we will try and address that as quickly as possible, and I think we will have economy and a real estate sector which will begin to soar all over again as it did in the beginning of last century. According to the Act, that is very specific, but we are keeping silent on it, that you cannot. But because there has been no regulatory authority established in a lot of states, because there is no rules framed in a lot of states, so this is a grey area. So I have just got wind of it now, and now that we have wind of it, we will address it sooner or later, and it will be to the will not be to the detriment of those that have done it in an above board fashion. We don't have direct powers to influence states. It's only suggestions that we can do. They have to frame their own rules, and these rules which the states are to frame, their delegation to the states for the framing of the rules was done at the request of the states themselves. So now my senior minister, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, is touring the country. Registration has to be complete by the 31st of July. Rules have to put in force, regulatory authority has to be there. All these things to happen, for it to happen and for it to move forward smoothly, it should all come together before the 31st of July. And those areas which are ambiguous, I suppose they will be brought out through seminars like this. We will get to know about them, and we will address them as soon as we have them on our table.